So we are seeing some people already entering the webinar, but we'll still wait a few minutes before we start. There's still a few minutes. So welcome everyone. We'll just wait another few minutes before starting. Maybe 2 more minutes. And then we can start the webinar. I see some more people joining, so I'll just wait 1 more minute. So yes, I think we can start, and whoever is joining will begin where we are at that point. So welcome everyone. Good afternoon. We are very happy to have so many of you on board in this webinar, in which we'll discuss the creeping annexation of parts of the West Bank, together with 3 representatives of Palestinian organizations. All Palestinian organizations are partners of some members of the Middle East Platform, which is a platform coordinated by 1111 and CNCD, and which contains about 20 Belgian NGOs. So my name is Katrien. I work for Oxfam in Belgium, and I will do my very best to moderate a little bit this debate. Goedemiddag allemaal, welkom in het webinar. Ik wil even snel zeggen dat we het webinar in het Engels zullen doen. Maar als jullie vragen zouden hebben, dan kunnen jullie in de box hieronder in de Q&A jullie vraag stellen in het Nederlands, in het Frans of in het Engels. En dan zullen we ons best doen om de panelisten daarop te laten antwoorden. Bienvenue tout le monde à ce webinaire. On va faire le webinaire en anglais. Mais si vous avez des questions, n'hésitez pas à poser les questions en français ou en néerlandais ou en anglais. Et on fait nos mieux de vous répondre. So I just mentioned that we will do the webinar in English, but if people have questions, they can put their questions in the Q&A box in the Zoom session, and we will do our best to answer. They can put the questions in French, in Dutch, or in English, and we'll make sure we can answer them. So I think we can start. The reason why we are having this webinar today is because of the plans of the new Israeli emergency government, which was sworn in on the 17th of May, and which plans to annex parts of the West Bank starting from the 1st of July, so practically next week. Meanwhile, we have seen the number of demolitions increasing over the last year. So if you look at 2019, the Israeli authorities increased land and asset confiscations and demolitions of homes by 45%. We have seen an increase in settlements as the settler population in the OPT has gone from 125,000 in 1993 when the Oslo Accords were signed up to 630,000 settlers today living across 143 settlements and 113 outposts. So the reality has been already changing, and now that annexation is announced, we come into a new era. And NGOs, but also members of the international community, have warned that annexation, small or large, of the OPT would constitute a flagrant violation of international humanitarian law. And we know that the discussion is being held on several levels. There are discussions in the UN, but also on the EU level, we have seen statements of the EU High Representative Joseph Borrell, who said that annexation, if it would take place, would not go unchallenged. Also, in a debate last week in the European Parliament, it was mentioned that it wouldn't go without any implications for the EU-Israel relations. So the debate is there. It also doesn't pass silently on the Belgian level. Last week, the Belgian Federal Parliamentary Committee on External Relations voted a resolution, or agreed upon two resolutions actually, one with regards to the recognition of a Palestinian state and the other one with regards to a response to annexation. So the second resolution actually asks the government, apologies, to take concrete countermeasures in case of annexation, and also asks the Belgian government to play a front-running role on the EU level by gathering the like-minded EU member states to respond to annexation in case EU consensus remains absent. But both resolutions are still awaiting a final vote in the full parliamentary chamber, which would normally be the day after tomorrow, so on Thursday. Meanwhile, though, many Palestinian organizations have been stepping up their responses to the current developments, and they are obviously, to our opinion, best placed to testify about the current reality and the impact of annexation on their daily lives and their work. So together with our Palestinian colleagues, we hope to have a discussion today on how they see the current reality and how they see the future, and how those plans on annexation would impact the work they do and the lives they live. So I am very happy to introduce our three speakers to you. I'll start with Reem Nachi, who is a field work coordinator at the advocacy unit of WICLAC, which is the Women's Center for Legal Aid and Counseling. WICLAC is also a partner of Broederlijk Delen and Oxfam. In her work, Reem has been focusing on highlighting international humanitarian law violations committed by the Israeli occupation, mainly against Palestinian women. So we hope to hear from her a bit of a gendered impact of the Israeli occupation and annexation plans, She has also been working very closely with Palestinian women who are encountering violations, and she will be best placed to also give their testimonies and raise their voices today. Then we're very happy to have also Abbas Milhan. Abbas is the director of the Palestinian Farmers Union, which is a partner of Oxfam. And aside from providing technical guidance and supervision to Palestinian farmers, he's also a big advocate for the rights of protection of Palestinian farmers on the national and international level. So we're very happy that he'll be able to tell us more about their livelihoods, the daily reality for them, and how the impact would be on the livelihoods of Palestinian farmers. And then last but not least, we'll also have Ghada Abu Khalioun, who is with us from the Palestinian General Federation of Trade Unions, which is a partner of Solsoc and the FGTB, also two members of the Middle East platform in Belgium. She currently coordinates the project Safety and Security in the Stone Quarry sector, but will be best placed today to talk more about how the annexation plans and the current reality affect Palestinian employees, as well as unemployment and issues related to that in the West Bank. So I talked way too much, and I'll just let our Palestinian colleagues talk now. So Reem, if you don't mind, I'll start with a question maybe to you. We know that WICLAC works with women in East Jerusalem, as well as in other parts of the West Bank. Israel already annexed East Jerusalem in the past, in 1980. So I was wondering if you think that the annexation plans of the West Bank will cause a similar situation as what we see in East Jerusalem, and what impact it would have specifically on women and girls, specifically with regard to the annexation compared to today. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Catherine, and hello, everyone. Thank you for your interest and your time. Well, to start with, I don't think that anyone at this point could have a clear, idea or answer to what the form of annexation will be, or how is the annexation to be implemented. But, one thing that we are sure about is that annexation is a de facto. It's been going on since 1967, and we have witnessed the construction of the expansion and of settlements, the expansion of the settlements, also the exploitation, the unlawful exploitation of natural resources. All of this, it says that annexation was happening and so on. Even for women, we have met and interviewed in the Jordan Valley, which is the area to start with regarding annexation. They expressed that they were not actually surprised with the annexation plans being declared and so on, because they think that what the Israel occupation has been doing for several years was paving the way for what they have declared recently and paving the way for annexation. Although, however, lately there was an increase in the attacks and in the violation, namely the daily raids and invasion of the villages, also a decrease in demolition notices for agricultural facilities and also arrests. One thing they also witnessed is the flags, or the Israeli flags at the entrance of any Palestinian village, and the removal of any sign that would say Israelis are not allowed into this area and so on. So going back to whether the situation will be similar to what we are experiencing today in Jerusalem, the key issue is actually people, the population. In 1967, when the Israeli occupation illegally annexed Jerusalem, the Israeli government imposed on the Palestinian population a permanent residency status, which means they gave them a residency status rather than a citizenship. We refer to them today as Jerusalemites. So in this situation, the Jerusalemites were entitled to a set of rights that needs to be supported, provided, and also protected by the occupation. However, when we're talking about annexation and the future of any annexed population, it's really vague. The destiny their destiny is really not known until now, because it also takes us back to 1981 when the Israeli civil administration was established. It was actually an attempt to transfer some or part of its jurisdiction to any Palestinian self-government. In this step, it was a quantum leap towards getting rid of any government Palestinian population or burden of a Palestinian being, governed and so on. So the question of annexation and the dismantling also of the Palestinian Authority as a result, of course, of the annexation, it raises the question of what are also the responsibilities of the Israeli occupying power. Will the responsibilities of the Palestinian Authority be transferred immediately to the Israeli occupation authority, or even if Israel at all ready to bear the severe responsibilities of Palestinian again? We have heard actually many scenarios from women in the Jordan Valley. Some of them believe that they might be given the Israeli ID, similar to the situation of the Jerusalemites, or even citizenship. Some of them believe that they will be stateless. Their legal status is still unclear. However, the majority, they believe that they will be forced displaced. And to this, I would like to quote Ferial. She is a mother of four, 47 years old, from the village of Bardala in the north of the Jordan Valley. She states, "We women, we are highly dependent on our lands for living. We live to teach our children to love the land and to cultivate it. We do not want the 1948 Nakba nor the 1967 war to be repeated. We do not want to be forced displaced from our houses and lands." Moreover, also, what lies within this is a very disturbing fact about, just waiting to face the unknown and the unpredictable future. For these women, the thought of a woman or a girl to be, living under the mercy of the occupation, it's a clear violation of their right to self-determination. We have also another example of Qamar, which is a 17 years old girl who has just finished her high school examinations, and she is just ready to start her university next year. And she expressed, when sitting with my colleagues and discussing the situation, "What saddens me the most is our collective fear for our educational future and what will affect us as young women, including the jeopardies of continuing our education. Insecurity and lack of safety may prevent some families from sending their daughters to study, in addition to the spread of the phenomenon of early marriage. Yes, we have a fear of anonymous future. My family talks about the possibility of destroying all of their farms by the Israeli occupation. This is their source of livelihood, and also it's the source of paying university fees for me. I'm very afraid of the idea of not completing college education and the idea of forcing to be married. I feel lack of focus and loss in my future. I see my dreams to be the most famous doctor at the national level evaporates." Moreover, lastly, and I'm sure my colleagues will also elaborate more on the economic impact, it's also very devastating for women, especially for women who are dependent on their lands for a living, and specifically Bedouin women. And I would conclude with the case of Khadra, 71 years old Bedouin woman from Ain al-Maleh, who has been living there for more than 40 years. She, along with her family, had to sell half of their livestock, which is, of course, their source of living, after they heard about annexation and the possibility of being forced displaced. She expressed, "We cannot be expelled from the land of our ancestors, even if all of the military occupation forces arrested me. Why am I full of fear at this age? Is it the end of my life as a Bedouin? Will I be forced to live in a closed house? Is my tribe going to be scattered?" I have many questions, but no answers, only tears. Thank you, Kate. I pass the floor to you.
Thank you so much, Reem. I think you already captured quite some important points, and I think this is definitely a basis we can build further on in the discussion. I recapture also the legal status and things that are unclear about that, waiting for the unknown, the fact that there is no clarity on what will happen to the people, the economic impact, and the lack of the possibility to self-determination. So I think there we have quite a few important points that you already tackled, and I'm sure that our other colleagues will tackle a few that are very much in line with that. I'm thinking, for instance, Abbas, if Reem mentions the economic impact, you are working with farmers also in the Jordan Valley. We know that the Jordan Valley is targeted as being annexed quite quickly, and the agricultural sector will be severely impacted if that's the case. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about the reality for farmers there and overall in the West Bank, and what the impact would be, and maybe also if it could also have an impact on their livelihoods in terms of what they are doing in country, but also in terms of export of goods, and what implications you think it would have.
Thank you, Catherine, and thanks for organizing this webinar, and thanks for allowing me the opportunity to speak to everyone. Hello, everybody from Palestine, and good afternoon. Before answering the two questions, Catherine, you just raised to me, let me just give some facts about annexation. Because, you know, as Reem said, and we fully agree with her, annexation will not start on July 1st. It had already started on the ground since many years ago. Israel, as you mentioned in the beginning, Catherine, you said that number of settlements that increased after signing the Oslo Agreement in 1994 between Palestinians and Israelis have dramatically increased over these 26 years, from 100 50,000 settlers to more than 600,000 settlers. And in order for settlers to be encouraged to come and settle in Palestine, they need a land to settle on. So the land was annexed and confiscated, you know, over years, bit by bit, by the Israeli government in order to allocate these lands for settlers, to encourage them and give the land for them as incentives to encourage them to settle in settlement. So annexation has been, you know, undergoing since long period of time. And second, let's look at annexation under the wider context of continued occupation until now. The annexation is one phase of the continued occupation Israeli is imposing on the entire West Bank, but the annexation is like, you know, one cycle of the necklace under which Israel is, you know, in continuing. What Israel will do in July 1st and may not do, may postpone that depending on the international pressure, maybe the no green line so far from the US government, we don't know, is the formal announcement of that annexation. So there is a big difference between formally announcing the annexation and implementing annexation on the ground. So yeah, let's be aware of that, and I don't want all of us to be trapped with the Israeli, you know, strategy of dealing with the announcement of this annexation, because if they postpone it, then may everyone feel relaxed that nothing is going on. But no, in reality, people are suffering and annexation is there. Now, what's happening on the ground? What's happening in Jordan Valley? Why Jordan Valley? We are focusing on Jordan Valley because Jordan Valley is the first phase for annexation. Israeli government and the occupation are now intensifying their annexation activities in Jordan Valley because it is one of the largest fertile soil, rich with natural resources, mainly water, in that area. What they've been doing over the past few years and rapidly over the past year, they are disconnecting people from their lands. they're disconnecting people from the source of their life, which is their farms and their agricultural areas. They're destroying their agricultural projects, their transitional pipelines, their irrigation networks, on which they rely in order to produce the agricultural production to secure income for their families. Now the plan, once the annexation is formally announced, this means that more than 65,000 Palestinian farmers in the Jordan Valley will completely be disconnected from their last source of income from their land. They will be completely restricted and denied access to their land and to their natural and what is remained from their natural resources, because, as you know, water issue is still dominated by the Israeli government so far. So this is what annexation will mean. Economically, those who are poor and vulnerable living in Jordan Valley, because they are encountering the daily attacks and the daily violation of the Israeli army and the Israeli settlers in that area, they will shift from being poor to being poorest. They will be the poor of the poorest, the poorest of the poor in that area, because they will lose their economic, they will become relief recipients rather than they are economically independent, because they produce now and they sell their produce and live on what they produce. Once they are disconnected from their lands, this means that they will lose their produce and they will be unable to live from what they produce, which will shift these tens of thousands of families, of farmers' families, to become relief recipients, living on aids and donations coming from whoever, from World Food Program or from UN agencies or organizations, rather than becoming relief, economically independent as farmers. Farmers only live with dignity because they live on what they produce. Disconnecting them from the natural resources, water and land, means they're losing their lives, and losing their lives meaning they're losing their hopes, their feeling of helplessness, feeling of hopelessness, and this will really lead to uncertainty where these groups will go and what will happen in the future, what new cycle of violence Israeli occupation is planning to make in that area. And this make us remember what happened before the first Intifada in 1988. Before that Intifada, when people lose hope of any political settlement or agreement or conflict resolution of the entire conflict, no one can predict how people can react and what they will do, because their life and the life of their children, the life of their families is coming on top of their agendas, and their livelihoods is the top of their concern every day. So annexation will mean killing and collapsing the entire food security system in Palestine. This is first because the 50% of our food security is coming from Jordan Valley area. It's 30% of West Bank area in Palestine, and as I said, rich with the fertile soil needed for agriculture and food security, and rich with almost 95% of water resources are located and existing in Jordan Valley. So taking over that area and disconnecting people from their farms mean kicking out and disconnecting and killing the lives of people there, and the livelihood. There will be nothing to talk about livelihood in that area anymore. As I said, 65% are living in Jordan Valley from what they produce, but there are around 150,000 families who do not live in Jordan Valley, but in neighboring villages, but all their farms and agricultural projects are also located in the Jordan Valley area. So Jordan Valley is one of the unique and strategic for agriculture sector and for food security in that area. The question, if this is the situation, what should be done in order, to prevent that one, to prevent this annexation and the undergoing of occupation? What we are aiming at, ending the occupation. If we end the occupation, we end the annexation, we end the settlement expansion, and we end the Israeli control over our water resources and allow better access of farmers and people towards their natural resources, and they can live from it. So occupation is the title, and settlement expansion is the title. The annexation itself is a technique Israeli government is using in order to empower settlers and to provide them incentives. By the way, let me tell you guys one important thing here. Settlers who are living in Area C now, they're receiving, incentives from their government to live as settlers in Jordan Valley. Around 147 million shekels as incentives provided by the Israeli government to settlers on monthly basis. This sum up to almost 1.6 billion shekels. It's around like $450 million. Incentives are given to settlers in Jordan Valley and Area C in forms of house allowance, land for free, free water. They don't pay for water. The Israeli government, they paying for the water the settlers are using to irrigate the land they confiscated from Palestinians. While Palestinians on the other side, who have their own natural resources, they pay 5 and 6 times the price, the normal price of water they need for irrigation and for drinking in that area because of the control of the Israeli over natural resources. The question, what we need to do to encounter these plans? I think there are different levels of interventions. First from us, sorry, maybe this is the second question, Catherine?
I don't want to interrupt you. I think it's very, very clear what you are saying. I think we will definitely have to zoom in on what we have to do. Let's just take the bigger picture first, and then we'll come back to what actions should be taken, if that's okay for you. So we'll
yes, sure. Yes, sure.
That everyone can do their intervention, but we'll definitely come back to that. I think what you mentioned was very, very strong in terms of making clear that this is a process that has been already ongoing and is entering another stage in the process. Announcement of annexation is not implementation of annexation, so we should be aware that this is also after the 1st of July, an important area to keep our eyes open and see what will happen and how it will impact the lives. What I understand mostly about your intervention is the fact that we need to see the Jordan Valley as the breadbasket for many farmers and actually literally the possibility for them to have food on the table for themselves, for their children, and that those people will be taking away the opportunity to actually strengthen their livelihoods and live. So I think that is a very clear picture of what the consequence is at the moment and what it will be if things continue. I think, Rada, if I can give you the floor, would you say that this is the impact that Abbas just spoke about? Would you see a similar impact with regards to all Palestinian employees? What you see at the moment for Palestinian workers, and would you also expect that what Abbas also mentioned, that the most vulnerable or the people that are already unemployed or maybe that are employed will be encountering increased unemployment? So I would be very interested to have your views on that one.
Hello everybody, and thank you in advance for making this support to Palestine. You are all the time you are supporting Palestinian people and Palestinian workers. So now we are in the beginning of a new chapter of Palestinian and Israeli conflict. A lot of questions, maybe a few answers, a lot of scenarios, techniques. So everyone is alarmed and waiting what will going on in the 1st of July. So as my colleagues, Reem and Abbas said, annexation, it's the elimination of the Palestinian hope to have their viable democratic Palestinian state. So there will be a closure of negotiation, stop the efforts of regional peace. The Palestinian will live under another kind of apartheid. We already have the wall, and now we have this annexation. So it's the last nail in the coffin of Palestinian issue. To start the first question, which is what the impact on the Palestinian workers in Palestine and the Palestinian workers inside Israel. In Palestine, we know that the annexation will take 30 to 40% of the Palestinian lands. So they will be small cantons, small separation areas. They will have their own roads. They will destroy the old one, and so it will be a restriction in the movement and the mobility of the workers to go there or to move from one place to another. Another thing that those who is approximately 400,000 Palestinians who are in these annexed regions, they will lose the ownership to their lands. They will have a special permit. Maybe it will be a private permit to go out or to stay or to go to their places to work, or if they have the permission from the other Israelis. So it kind of losing or grabbed on these lands. The other important things that some places like in Sarta in Salfit region, the Israelis all the time, they try to make it tighter on the Palestinian to go and to work in those sea regions. And the Palestinian, they are in the quarry places, the Palestinians try to use a very primitive techniques in order to dig and to take these valuable red stone. But by the annexation action, it will be very complicated because they will grab those work sites, which mean high percentage of unemployment. A lot of people will lose their opportunity of work. Also, many work sites will close, and they will also try, in order to make it tighter and tighter, to cut the electricity, because to get a three-phase technique in using these or to operate these work sites, they controlling the electricity, and it will be very difficult for the workers to work in these lands. Another important thing also that they will not give a new license to these if someone have the wealthy stone or to want to start work in the quarry, it will be difficult for them to work there. And as you mentioned, Catherine, that we are in the partnership with Solsoc and FGTB, and we are targeting the workers of stone and the quarry, and we are trying to strengthen the relation with our partner, the Labor of Ministry, in order to go and to make all of these field visits on the ground to check on securing implementation and the extension of labor code related to the employee and employers to achieve a safer and a cleaner environment. So if these lands are taken and annexed, it will be very difficult for us to go there, because all the region will be under the Israeli law. So no labor inspector can go check or even give any warning to violated the work sites. No one can check the OSH, the occupational health and safety, for these work sites. So it will be very difficult to follow up or to know what's going on in those places. So I think this move will not go easily. There will be uncontrolled reaction from the Palestinian. It is the procedure of the procedures of the labor of ministry or us as a unionist will be very difficult, because the Israelis will grab those lands, make it like no privilege were given to those people, except maybe they were given a permission, but it is not regarded a legal or, let's say, a work permission. So I think maybe the annexation, no one can know what will the response from the Palestinian. If we move to the Israelis as well, the Palestinian workers inside Israel. So it is another question because no one can guess what the Israelis do. As you know, during the COVID-19, we noticed that the Israelis open the gates and make it's very easy to the Palestinians to go and to work inside Israel. No one know what's going on. So in this maybe annexation action, they will make it like this. They can close the border and do not let anyone to go to Israel. Maybe they will make a lot of restrictions, procedures in the flowing and in the movement of the workers to Israel. And the other scenario, it is maybe unexpected. No, they will make it very easy. And they started to do this because they make the Palestinian workers can get their permission online, electronically, and it's free. So maybe they want to operate their economic, they want to hit and to harm the Palestinian economy. So by giving these facilities to the Palestinian, maybe they had this another technique in their minds. No one can guess what will happen, but all of this is analysis and expectation from our side. And another important thing also, that those people who are working or who are living in those lands with such a permission, they will be regarded as a cheap labor, because the employer, the Israeli employer, will not pay a lot in order to issue a permission, a work permission for those. But for the sequences on the worker side, they will lose the pension. They don't have any kind of compensation if they have any accident. So this is briefly about the impact, and maybe we will return back if we have another question. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ghada. I think you made a very clear point, and it is clear that the lack of protection of Palestinian workers will be of great concern, as it is already today, and it will impact your work very severely also, it looks. And also the financial implications for workers cannot be underestimated. I wanted to touch upon one point, is the fact that the reaction of the Palestinians is not clear. We don't know what to expect. If I can just zoom in on the reaction of the Palestinian authorities with regard to the announcement of annexation, they said that they will stop all agreements with Israel and with the US. I heard from some colleagues in country that it's not very clear how that will be implemented, what the consequences will be, but I'd be very curious to hear from you what you think, or if you already feel this decision in your work, and how and what you expect things to come from that. Reem, could I come back to you for that, and then we can maybe do a tour, unless you think someone else should answer, but I'll put you on the spot.
Yeah, but can you hear me properly?
The sound can be better, but if you speak not too quickly, I think it will be okay.
Okay, so agreements between Palestinian Authority and the Israeli, and how this is going to impact us. Well, we have to always keep in mind that we are working with women. We are working with a very vulnerable group in our community. And we have also to keep in mind that they are under double jeopardy, occupation, and also a patriarchal society, patriarchal attitude. So cooperating in such hard situation really requires the PA to be there for us. We have them to facilitate all of our work. They are still, there to protect many Palestinian human rights, feminist organizations, especially when we're talking about extremist and very controversial groups in our society. So do we have any concrete answers about how we going to cope if, for example, the PA to be dismantled, or if these agreements to be suspended? To be honest, no, we also as a human rights organization, we keep thinking about it, and our concern is mainly our targeted group, women and girls, because of the mentioned reasons, because also when we're talking, for example, about the Jordan Valley, a place where we're talking about possible annexation to happen there, we are talking about vulnerable communities where also women in this area are still subject to many patriarchal attitudes and also to gender-based violence, let also alone the occupation violation that we have been talking about. So WCLAC found that there are certain also realities that are exacerbating the situation. For example, polygamy and early marriage, unemployment, poverty, and so on. And all of this require legal and social intervention and support. It's one of our, concrete services that we provide for women. So we always tend to, have the fear of if there was this, let's say, reality about, let's say tomorrow everything is changed and there is no longer any coordination and so on, how we will be able to reach for these women in these very vulnerable communities. As a part of our work, we tend to have partners with a lot of CBOs, community-based organization, in many different areas. I don't know, because we have 4 main offices in Jerusalem, in Hebron, and Nablus, in Bethlehem, and also in Ramallah, but we cannot reach every place in every area, and specifically the Jordan Valley area. So we have a partnership with the CBO in Jericho, through which they provide services to women, legal services, and also social services. But then again, if we are no longer in contact or we cannot reach to these organizations, we are always feeling that this woman or woman will be under the GBV, the gender-based violence threat. And we have faced similar situation where women, due to political complicities, for example, Palestinian women from the West Bank getting married to Palestinian men in Jerusalem, to Jerusalemites, they would be quiet about gender-based violence, even if they were really facing it on a very tense level, but they would choose to be quiet, and needless also to go into the many different legal procedures and different laws, the Israeli law, the Palestinian law, and different also military order. This would all create a very complex situation for women and to our also ways of intervention. So in addition to all of this, sometimes we definitely need the support of the PA also to conduct our activities. For example, women sometimes cannot, due to transportation issues and also due to again the patriarchal attitudes, they are not allowed to travel for a long distance or alone or so on. So they cannot reach even the center nor the CBOs. In this case, we have to coordinate with the Ministry of Health, the Palestinian Ministry of Health, because in many cases we have to conduct our sessions, our raising awareness, or our consultations in clinic health, in health clinics for women, because they cannot express openly that they are in need of help, or they cannot let anyone know where they are heading to, for example, a center which would give services to women. So they would come to us and we would meet with them secretly under the excuse of medical check and so on. So For example, during only the last year, the CBO that I'm talking about in the Jordan Valley, they have provided 151 women services, legal services, and also social services. All of them revolved around sexual violence inside the family, or even, being deprived of their rights by one of the family members, and sometimes specifically by the husband, also on family-related matters such as alumni and also children custody and so on. So all of these concerns we raise when we're talking about, women and our patriarchal society. So all of our interventions and all of our joint efforts, not only WICLAC, but also another feminist human rights organization, and we have the national referral system, we have many activities we conduct jointly also with the different bodies of the PA and so on. So all of this is subject to change. So my question to all of us, what will happen as a consequence of annexation to all of these women, suspending agreements, and how is this going to affect the lives of women? And what will happen to these women if we are not there for them? The PA still not up to, the Palestinian feminist organization expectation, but still we cannot exclude them. They are still a proper umbrella for protecting and caring for many certain women activities and support, especially as I mentioned before, with regard also to having a lot of extremist groups rising in our society or different, views. And all of this with regard also to the international conventions and to the international obligations of the state of Palestine. So certainly the dismantle of the PA will have a negative impact on our activities and on our work as a Palestinian feminist human rights organization, but also will have a very tremendous impact on women and girls.
Thank you, Reem. I think that was very strong and very clear in terms of also uncertainties and concern about protection of women and girls. I was wondering, Abbas, from your point of view, you're working with farmers in areas that are already under Israeli control, but then there are already difficult issues in coordinating with the PA. I don't know if you see that the suspension of coordination or agreements between the PA and Israel and the US will have severe consequences on the lives of people you work with. I'd be very interested.
As you know, due to the classification of land under Oslo Agreement, Area A and B and C, Area C is almost under the full control of the Israeli side in terms of administrative security issues. So the PA has nothing to do there and cannot work there formally and officially as a government due to that categorization of the land according to Oslo. So that's why our work with farmers and the work of farmers there is almost challenging, because it's dealing with the occupation and with the laws imposed by Israel on that land. And believe me, the laws they are using, the Israeli side are imposing in that area since 1967 until now, are a very complicated system. First, they rely on the Ottoman Empire period. They try to find laws that justify and give them the excuse to confiscate land. If they don't find any window for a law during the Ottoman Empire, then they go to the British Mandate era to look at any laws that they can use and apply in order to confiscate the land or to impose more controls. If they don't find, then they go to the Jordanian period following the British Mandate to see if there are any laws they can use or rely on for excuses. If they don't find, simply they just issue a military order. That, as simple as that. So most of the laws, most of the challenges are due to military orders, the Israeli army leaders impose in that areas, which make the life of farmers, life of Bedouin communities, life of Palestinian families living in Area C, it's like hectic, and challenging. Now, the capacity of our government, the national government, to do intervention in that area is very, very, very limited. Very limited. So what we rely on is we rely on people. Because, you know, people who are there, who insist to continue resisting and existing in their land, because as I said, it is their last source of income. This is their source of life for themselves and for their families. We rely on them to continue in their land and resist, and accept the risk of being farmers in that area, despite of all the losses and the violations they encounter on a daily basis due to the attacks of the Israeli settlers or the Israeli government. Now, the Palestinian government as a response towards the Israeli government of the formal annexation. Yes, they announced the freezing of the agreement signed with the Israeli side. You know, Israel is dealing with the Palestinian Authority with one role. The only role the government here is doing, according to the Israeli perception, is as security agents. For them, you know, all the police here, the security forces in Palestine, and the government are only agents for security, for the security of the Israelis and Israeli settlements, rather than for the security of, you know, Palestinian citizens. And yes, they announced the freeze. I don't know how much they are serious about that. I hope they will continue on that as a pressure to the Israeli government, and that would help, you know, encourage the international community to impose the pressure on the Israelis. And recently, 2 days ago, the Palestinian Authority went beyond the freeze of agreements and said that if this will continue, then we will dismantle the Palestinian Authority itself, and let's have the occupation come back to the entire West Bank and deal with everything here, health, education, you know, and everything. So yes, this has been a threat, and I think this threat has been also communicated, and the message was clearly conveyed to the European countries that if this will continue, then the Palestinian Authority, there is no meaning to have any Palestinian Authority anymore. The reason why the Palestinian Authority was established was based on the Oslo Agreement signed in 1994 for 5 years. And these 5 years were just a transitional period. We were supposed, according to that agreement, to have our independence by 1999. And we are now 21 years after the end of that transitional period, and the situation on the ground is getting worse and worse and worse. So what is the value of having a Palestinian Authority according, you know, based on agreements signed, when there is no respect to this authority and nothing is you know, achieved, and by time we are losing more land. The more time we continue, the more land we use, and this, you know, Palestinian independence as a dream will let's say, vanish.
Thank you, Abbas. That's, I think, a strong message also to take with us when we look at the reality. And again, a reminder of looking at what has already happened so far and what is about to be happening. Maybe just quickly, Ghada, before I go to the last question, you mentioned that for Palestinian workers in Israel, for instance, Israel works with an online application system. So they actually already go around the PA. I don't know if you see any impact or if you have seen other implications or reactions from the Israelis on the reaction of the Palestinian authorities in that sense with regard to the Palestinian employees. If you would like to add a few words, then feel free.
Yes, yes. I think this technique or a policy from the Israeli government, it is look like attempting a procedure in order to convince or to encourage the workers to get rid from the interference of PA or the interference of unions. They are trying to make it like good salaries these days without tight procedures or restriction against the worker in order to hit the Palestinian economy, and at the same time they will exploit the workers later. So now I don't blame the workers, because those poor people, they are moving very early in the morning, maybe 2 a.m., and then they will go to Israel to work, and they come back to their families. They are caring just with their income, and to come back to their families with this with their let's say, sometimes they are giving them 200 to 700 a day. So for the Palestinian workers who is working inside Israel, it's a great money. But I don't blame them, because maybe they don't have another option or opportunity in Palestine. And another thing, when I mentioned that it's online or electronic permit, it's easier for the workers to get this permit, because previously they paid maybe 1,500, which mean more than 300 or 400 euro to get the permit. So in this platform, or on this technique, it's free. So it's very tempting for the Palestinian the Palestinian worker to go and to get this. And this mean that they, as if they said, yes, it's very to weaken the PA. There is no role for us as a Palestinian. And the other important impact also, I said that we work with the quarry and the stone. So by this suspending of the relation and agreement, there is no export for this stone to Israel. And this harm the industry of the stone, and they make it very bad, the burden on the Palestinian economy to observe all of these products, the quarry products. And another issue, the relationship with the Histadrut, we can deny that under the coordination of the ITUC, the International Confederation of Trade Unions, we have agreement that all the fees paid by the workers should go back to the Palestinian unions and Palestinian government. But they stop all of these, and they regarding themselves as responsible to follow up all the issue of the workers. And we know well that in fact they don't care about the Palestinian workers. They throw them if they have any accident or have anything in the work. They carry them to the nearest nearest place or the nearest gates in Palestine. Another important also thing, we cannot, the Palestinian, maybe they are, all of them, they are in an open prison. We are handcuffed already. So even President Abbas, he need a permission in order to move from one place to another. So this technique or the policy of the PA, it's maybe very important in this very critical stage, but we don't know what will happen. Suddenly, maybe the Israeli, without any declaration, dismiss all the workers, and they cannot let them to go and to work there in Israel. So it means very high poverty, because now it's about 53% in Gaza and 14% in West Bank. The high percentage of unemployment. You know that we have 130,000 workers in Israel, and we have 70,000 workers unorganized without permit. So if it is closed, so what will happen to the Palestinian economy? So this is in brief.
Thank you, Rada. I want to go to a last question I have, and it's anticipating on what Abbas already started to talk about. So I'll give you the floor just now, Abbas. But I just want to say to the people who are listening and looking at this webinar, if you have any questions, just a reminder, you can put them in the Q&A box in this session, so we can still address them. We have about 30 minutes left, so we can still have a bit of a discussion. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. But I just had one more question in terms of what the international community could do. I already said in the beginning that there are 2 motions that should be confirmed this week in Parliament. on the Belgian level. There are discussions on the EU level. So I would be very interested to hear from you what you think the actions should be that should be taken by the international community. That could be by political actors. Definitely also interested in what we could do and what you would tell us to do, and maybe also inside Palestine. So I'll leave that open and up to you. Abbas, would you like to kick off?
Yeah, thank you. But let me, if you don't mind, just very quick comment on what Ghada mentioned regarding the maybe unexpected facilities Israel would give to workers to enter Israel. By the way, this is a technique Israeli government has been following since 1967 war until now. The Israeli plans is to annex land, but without people. They want the land empty from farmers and people. To encourage that, they try to open the labor work inside, Israel for people, so they leave their lands behind, vacuumed and empty, which will leave these land easy hunt for annexation and for confiscation. So it's not, they won't be doing that because they care about the, economical life of people and the livelihood, but for, with the big strategy to confiscate and annex the land without people there resisting and, challenging and protesting and encountering any annexation or confiscation plan. Back to your question, Catherine, regarding what should be done. Of course, there is, lots of things that need to be done for people. We see the challenge, we see the risk, we see the suffering of people there, and people who are abandoned there, and lived alone. We need to do something for them, and I think the intervention should be, from different levels. First, from us as organizations, and this is I'm starting up with the FU as an organization who should do something for people. We try to provide the minimum requirement for steadfastness or for resilience of Palestinians in the Jordan Valley. We provide them with, even with the limited resources we have, we try to provide as much as we can for people there to stay in their land. And we provide them, consultation on legal protection mechanisms to encounter an annexation or confiscation. And we call upon all organizations, national-based organizations in Palestine, to rechannelize their resources, their programs, their projects to be channelized towards, interventions in Jordan Valley, and the same we did with our partners, including Oxfam and international donors and UN agencies. We call them that this is the time to channelize and to put on the top agenda of intervention Jordan Valley and supporting the people there. Because people, the annexation file is much bigger than the farmers in Jordan Valley. And they cannot alone face and encounter this, these plans by the Israeli government and by settlers with their very limited resources. What they need is direct support for them. And second, we're calling our national government. There are things that our national government can also do in order to intervene in that area. The first thing we called upon our government to do is to announce Jordan Valley as a cluster of resilience. What does this announcement mean for the government in our perception as, representative bodies for farmers, is that this will make the government channelize all existing resources towards, development and steadfastness and resilience of farmers in that area, and provide and what we call is like adopting the risk-sharing policy with the farmers in Jordan Valley. It's not fair that the farmers are accepting the 100% of the risk by their own. We need the government to share the risk with them at least there. And once these projects, their agricultural projects or farms or irrigation networks is destroyed due to the daily violations or regular violations, the government should be there with a special fund that will compensate farmers so they can stay there and resume their projects in order to secure the basic requirements of their livelihoods and their income. The big question here, what we expect from international community to be done there. Catherine and colleagues, everyone who is listening to us and watching us in this webinar, this is the time to shift from expression of concerns statements, condemnation statements towards taking action. This is the time to stop talking but start doing. enough is enough, you know. I mean, Palestinians, believe me, I mean, if you count the number of statements by, you know, issued by international community that condemn settlement expansion, that condemn violation, that express concerns of what's happening on the ground, you can fill, you know, piles and piles of statements since the Second War until now. And believe me, this is not pressuring Israel and never hold Israel accountable as an occupying power in the Palestinian area. And this never made settlers to pay the price of being settlers living on the lands occupied and stolen from the Palestinian farmers. You know, they are coped with these type of statements. You know, this reminds me of the Prime Minister Sharon in 2000, when at that time Europe tried to play a stronger political role in the peace agreement and in the final status of negotiation. He made a strong speech to Europe by saying, Europe, you are payers but not players. This is the way, I mean, Israel is expecting the European role to be. They pay for what they destroy, for what the Israeli army occupation is destroying. They expect Europe to rebuild projects, to compensate people, to give, you know, developmental projects, and this take up from the burden of the Israeli occupation and the price they should pay of what they destroy. So this is the time to shift from that level of being only payers to be payers and players. If you pay, you have the power to play. And I think Europe is one of the strongest economical partners of Israel. They are, you know, 65% of the economic situation of the economy in Israel is dependent on Europe. By the way, not on USA. USA, yes, they're providing political support and financial support to Israel, but economy in Israel is dependent more on the European side. So there are lots of things Europe can use in order to pressure Israel. Economical agreement, you know, arm agreement with Israel. Ban any investment with any companies that have works to do in settlements. Banning settlers from, you know, freedom of movement in Europe. Why, you know, Europe, for example, they adopted the policy of restrictions measures against Russia because of annexing Crimea. So why not adopting the same policy for what's happening in Palestine? It's annexation, and it's illegal by international law. It's illegal by UN resolutions, the annexation and the confiscation of the land there, the occupation itself and settlement. It's illegal by European country constitutions. So if it is the case, why don't we take concrete actions? So banning settlers and banning and even imposing action on Israel as an occupying power, not as a state. And there is big difference between delegitimizing Israel as a country and delegitimizing the occupation because it's illegal by all international standards. What we are calling upon when we ask for sanction on Israel, we're calling upon sanctions against the occupying power. And we're calling upon sanctions against settlers. You know, if settlers feel that there is a price they will pay for being settlers, and if there are restricted measures on those who encourage and give incentives for settlements and settlers in West Bank, if there are bans that are imposed on free, you know, on economy coming from settlements and coming from Israeli companies who invest in settlements, that will make them wait and think. Why do you know? Israel, by doing annexation, is implying unilateral actions, which is, you know, violating the peace agreement signed with the sponsorship of Europe and the international community itself. Why do not European countries take strong actions to recognize Palestine as a state under occupation? At least parliamentary, I mean, parliaments can do that. And they can be pressured to pressure parliaments and governments to take serious, concrete actions to recognize Palestine. You know, if Israel for the first time would feel that Europe has really moved and shifted towards taking action policy, this will make the Israeli occupation count to 100 before they do any or implement any annexation on the ground or continue confiscating land. But if we keep talking, Israel, you know, they feel relaxed. You know what? as I said, settlers are receiving incentives from their government with 1.6 billion shekel budget to support their resilience. And unfortunately, the market in Europe is opened for their produce. I know now there is, according to the European Court decision, to labelize the settlement of produce, but this is not enough. We need to ban completely any produce coming from the Israeli settlements and from those companies who act and work inside Israel, and any companies in Europe that deal and have joint ventures with Israeli companies that work inside Israel also should be under, under big question. That will make, everyone who is supporting directly or indirectly the settlements expansion or the continued occupation there, paying the price. This will make things much different from what's happening now.
Thanks a lot, Abbas, also for highlighting on the different levels what can be done and your clear advocacy also for the international community to stop talking but to act. I think that's a very concrete message. Ghada, can I ask you, do you have some points you would like to raise on this?
Actually, as we are trade unions, we need the pressure from the work communities, from federation, trade unions, to make pressure on their governments, on their parliaments, in order to make push and great pressure on Israeli government. As Abbas said, yes, I am completely agree with him. It's not only pushing or sanction against Israel. We need more action. For example, yesterday I'm living in Nablus, and there is a use of Tom. They came, the settlers with the guard of the Israelis, and they want to visit this place at 12 a.m. It's not make sense. So it's like to make a fire on the street. The Palestinian also, they are under lockdown because of the virus, because of the poverty, many things. We were in closure yesterday because we have a lot of people who got the virus. But the many young people, they're in the street and they started to shout and to make fire. So we are in the beginning of another conflict. We will this annexation makes a fire in the street, maybe another intifada. So we need an adhere from Israel to the international law. Occupation is a violation of law. So annexation, it's as nothing, because we already have the occupation and we already have this wall. So annexation, it's another step, and also maybe in the future we have more and more consification, many things which will violate the Palestinian and make them do not have a decent life. Also, we need, as any other people, we need our viable independent state of Palestine. And with your support, with the concrete action from your side, with the unions strong, I know that the unions are very strong. We can solidarate together in order to make it online and to stop this annexation, which is very dangerous in the Palestinian issue and Palestinian state. Thank you.
Thank you, Ghada, also for your call to work closely together on this. I think that's definitely something we should take with us. Reem, from your point of view, I'd be very interested also to hear what you think should be done. So,
well, I'll try to be very brief to leave some time for the questions. But I couldn't agree more on what my, two colleagues, Abbas and also Ghada, said, especially on national level. Also, what Abbas mentioned is really important. We, as Palestinian human rights civil society organizations, we have also obligations. And from our side, for example, we launched the mobile clinics in order to reach for these very neglected areas. We shouldn't leave people alone. I totally agree. And also, the government should have their own also role in supporting the existence of such people. Just on commenting on your on what you have been saying, Catherine, about the two motions. We really welcome such motions, and we hope that these motions would receive the majority, the acceptance of the majority of the MPs, especially because they are really interlinked. I mean, annexation should be countered definitely, because also it is really important to stop it. It would without stopping it, it would kill any possibility for a two-state solution, a solution that EU and Belgium had been standing up for many years. And also the recognition of State of Palestine, it's really important, and we really encourage it because it also supports our opportunities of having our own also state. Regarding the international community and also the Belgian government, again, and my colleagues have said it, at this point, I think violations, IHL violations, IHR violations are really very clear to everyone. It's in front of everyone's eyes, and we need to step into another actions. And as long as impunity and accountability, the lack of accountability is there, we won't go any place new. So without any international community, imposing consequences on the Israeli continued violations, that would also include, sanctions on trade or maybe an economy, on also individuals, the situation won't change, and the culture of impunity will continue as it is. Again, annexation is a result of many years of continuous violation. It's a result of, keeping silent. It's a result of the culture of impunity. So I remember 2 years ago, I was in Belgium in order, to discuss the demolition of Khan al-Ahmar. And if we succeeded back then, and especially, the European Parliament, I don't see any reason why, even though it's kind of, different, it's on a larger scale. However, I don't see any reason why, Europeans shouldn't step and shouldn't say that we should, at this point, take concrete steps to stop not only the annexation, but the prolonged occupation and violation. So just to sum it up, I think everyone has had enough with condemnation or with speeches, with resolutions not being implemented. It's time to third states to take action, and I couldn't emphasize more about this. So I will give you the floor again, Catherine, for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Reem. I think it could make the link to one of the questions we received as well, talking about what the international community could do and why they should or would not act. Someone mentioned that Europe is taking in a very weak position, the PA as well, and actions should be put in place by coalitions and solidarity actions in Europe to make that change. I think that would be very interesting to have your thoughts on the role of solidarity movements, the communities in Europe. If you have anything that you would want them to do and that could support the cause that you've been describing. Yeah, let's start with that, and then there's another question I'll raise just after that. I don't know who would like to answer that question. Abbas, did I see your hand? Yeah.
Me? Yeah, okay. Catherine, I hear this question many times, during my lobby tours, during my, speeches in different parts of this world, whenever I meet people or groups of solidarity groups who are pro-Palestinian struggle and want to end up this occupation and so on. And what people on the ground are expecting from, you guys in the international community, those people who are suffering, they have just one request: end up this occupation. As simple as that. End up this occupation once forever. Let people live with the minimum requirement of dignified life. This is the last occupation in modern history and the longest in modern history. That is still there and valid. And it's not just an occupation, it's an occupation that imposed a complete and entire apartheid system against Palestinians. This is worse than the apartheid system we knew in South Africa. And in South Africa, if you go back with your memories or you read in books, you know, I'm old enough to remember these times. You know, the only thing that ended that apartheid regime in South Africa, in addition to the struggle of people there in Africa, was the international sanctions imposed on the apartheid regime there. So well, this is the same way we expect from you to do in terms of Palestine. We are, you know, everyone, look at UN reports, World Bank reports, you know, European reports. They describe the situation here as an apartheid. Even Jimmy Carter, the ex-president of the United States, he talked about Palestine as apartheid system. You know, we have apartheid system here. No one expects, you know, less than imposing sanctions on a regime like this in order to hold them accountable. Now, I know it might be difficult to bring, you know, politicians or governments to take these concrete actions against Israel. And I know Israel, they have lobby groups, you know, all over the world, and they are very smart and very strong in these, in the lobby actions and activities they do there, and they threaten those politicians in different ways by, you know, putting them as anti-Semitism and so on. You know, there are different things they can use and rely on in different countries. And here come the role of solidarity groups, civil society groups, youth lobby groups, activists, lawyers, judges, organizations, forums, platforms, to implement and conduct campaigns that will call up and pressure these politicians, decision makers, parliamentary groups, and the governments to take these concrete actions. You know, whether the whole list of the actions, concrete actions we are calling for, or even if it is one single of these actions that we can succeed in, it will make a difference. As we say, small change, big difference. And believe me, any concrete actions, even if it is small, can make big difference for people. Because those people in Jordan Valley, if they feel that they are abandoned, alone, and they lose hope, believe me, Israel is paving the road for a new cycle of uncertainty in terms of violence and new cycle of violence in this country. Look, guys, I'm now 53. By the way, tomorrow is my birthday. I will complete 53 years old. Anyways, when the first Intifada erupted, I was 22 years old. I was in the university at that time. You know, the situation before the Intifada was, you know, was amazing in terms of economy. People were moving freely from one place to another. If I wanted to go to the beach, I would just turn on the engine of my car. In 1 hour, I will be on the beach in Haifa or in the beach of Netanya or Tel Aviv. The freedom of movement was there. Economy was very good because there were like 150,000 workers work inside Israel, and they were good paid compared to the living conditions in Palestine. Despite that, the Intifada erupted in 1988. You know why? Because people lost hope of political settlement agreements. And believe me, if this hope we lose again now, and no one is doing and pressuring Israel and holding it accountable, no one can predict what the new cycle of conflict will be in this area. And no one can convince people again about peace, because they have gave the chance of peace when they signed the 1994 peace agreement with Israel. And they listened to the promises given to them by European countries that your life will change and you will have independence. And we believe these promises. And now look, it's 26 years since we signed that agreement. What happened on the ground? We lost more than we gained. I think Europe is ethically responsible of keeping things, bringing things back to track. And this will not happen by just talking, by doing, by actions, and by acting. I mean, the governments they have responsibility to take actions. Political parties have the responsibility to do something. Parliamentary members have the responsibility. And if they don't do, solidarity groups, you people can do something. You can pressure. You're living in a well-sophisticated democratic countries, and those people who want to run for the parliament seat, they rely on your votes. So if you want to vote to them, tell them that to vote to you, you need to take this action and to adopt this policy for this last continued apartheid regime in modern history. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abbas. And I already want to say happy birthday in advance of tomorrow. I hope you have a good day. You also touched, and I'm very conscious of time. We have like about, let's take 4 minutes, so we can have just one more last reaction from Reem and one from Ghada. Just wanted to say that I'm still very interested in hearing your thoughts on the solidarity groups and the actions they could take. But Abbas also touched upon the other question that was raised is, do you see this as a turning point, the whole announcement of annexation going towards a one-state reality with unequal rights, a situation of apartheid? I would be very interested. If you want to touch upon those issues, feel free to do so. Or if you want to add some points to what Abbas has raised, then feel free to do so. But just warning that we just have a little bit more time. We need to close down actually. Reem, would you like to kick off?
Yeah, just very quickly in terms of solidarity groups and coalition and so on, I think definitely, yes, they can be very strong supportive. And I mean, come on, all of us are part of, partners with Belgium, also organizations. So already, we believe in this power. Regarding whether this is going to be a turning point, a crucial point in our history, well, it depends. Definitely, it could be another phase we're entering, another maybe rise could be, but it also depends. I personally don't think that Israel on the 1st of July would take very dramatic actions into, annexing or, invading the Jordan Valley and so on. But still, yes, it couldn't be something that we won't be talking about for a while, or it won't be changing maybe the fate or the history of the Palestinian population. Just one thing that we were also expecting to have, a very tremendous impact on the Palestinian lives and so on. It might be somehow not very, related, but when the US decided to move, the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and we were expecting much more, implications or much more, reactions or change on our life. So just to conclude, it's always unpredictable. Will it, if it really happens and, legally, will it really impact our future? Definitely.
Thanks, Reem. Ghada?
Yes, very briefly. I know that no time is left. We cannot say that the Palestinians are giving up. No, they will struggle, and we will exist and still exist in our lands in order as a kind of resist. But I am depending on you. I know that you changing policies and you are changing governments. We can do it together. We cannot wait until another intifada and losing more people. You know what's going up in Gaza. It was a war in Gaza, and many European countries say we will do this and that, but still they are suffering. So it's the same in West Bank with this annexation. Either Benjamin Netanyahu or the Gantz, this blue and white party, the same policy. Just I agree with Abbas and Rima. We need, and it's urgently, and with your support and solidarity, end the occupation, please. Let us live as others. We want only our viable state, this decent and like any other country. Yes, it's the South of Africa. They got their independence. We hope with your solidarity, we can do it. So please make action, make real concrete action. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ghada. I think the three of you raised some very important issues to finalize and wrap up this webinar. I heard that the important things that we need to remember of your interventions is that we need to be aware that this is a process that is ongoing, that we need to keep our eyes open, that we need to call for action by our representations and governments, but also that we need to make sure that we also keep raising our voices in order to also keep the hope there that things can change and for the better. I want to thank you all very much for taking time to speak to us. It was very interesting also for me to hear your perspectives. And I'm sure we will stay in touch and make sure that your words won't just stay with words, but that we will transform them into actions as well. So thank you very much, and have a good evening, and take care of yourselves and your family.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you. Thanks everybody for listening. Thank you.